absolutely delighted to be here. I was told that I was only given 4 minutes, and the problem with Black Baptist ministers would go on and on. And so what I did to try to adhere to the time constraint, I brought a script. And in wanting to adhere to the time constraint, I thought that I would tell a story, a real story, and talk about it, and some of it you'll get in terms of the intersection of oppression. But one that you might not pick up is how the church also colludes into sometime us being participants in domestic abuse. So this is a real story about my clergy colleague, and before he died of his wounds due to domestic violence, he said, make sure to tell my story to everyone. He had wished that he had told it sooner. And so he's entrusted to me. You'll just get a synopsis of it. But let me tell you part of why my friend was in the closet about many things and had to be. So as you know, the Presbyterian Church finally, and I say it with such bittersweetness, finally has accepted same-sex marriage. I feel they're a day late and a dollar short and ought to be ashamed of themselves, but nonetheless, there's a God somewhere, and in that moment, it touched the Presbyterian Church. And I say that because, and I'm hoping it touched the Methodists and a few more. I say that because although I come out of what I best depict as Baptist-Costal, I pastored African American Presbyterian Church, so I come out of the Presbyterian in terms of professionally. Theologically, I'm still that Bible thumping, evangelical type of person. But the thing here that isn't in this story is that my friend. Part of him being in the closet is that if he had come out, the Presbyterian Church would not have ordained him as clergy. And if he had come out once they had ordained him, he, like so many of my Presbyterian colleagues, would have been defrauded. So, and then there's another part of it. Sometimes domestic violence can be in your face and you don't see it. And the interesting thing about it, one of the things that is required when you become a pastor is that you take pastoral care. And I have always been very, very good when people have said to me, I'm looking for Jesus to help me with my illness. And I will say, well, I'm glad that you're going to bring this concern to the altar, but you might need therapy, you might need this, you might need that. And I've always prided myself in particularly telling the African American community that, because we feel like if enough Jesus and lay it on the altar, it's going to be all right. And so it took me when I didn't realize this issue. So this is about a friend, and I'll just begin. It says, every Monday morning, Alex, this is not his real name, and I met for breakfast at our favorite dive in Harvard Square. I would notice visible bruises and cuts on his face, arm, and legs, but assumed the black and blue marks were simply par for the course for a guy who enjoyed the rough and tumble adrenaline high that comes with playing weekend scrimmage football. I don't recall a time when Alex didn't have a knot on his head, a cut on his lip, a bite into his skin, welts on his arm, and stitches. I did notice, however, that over time that the teddy bear sweet guy who sat across the table from me with a smile as wide as the Charles River on Monday mornings looked beaten up rather than just injured. When I began asking Alex about his bruises, he shrugged off my queries and talked about something else. So Monday mornings after, he would call me at the last minute to cancel, or he just wouldn't show up at all. One morning, he called me to cancel, telling me he was in Mount Auburn Hospital. His partner had stabbed him severely. Statistics estimate that 25 to 33% of LGBT population will experience some form of partner abuse or domestic violence in their lifetime. The interpersonal violence study conducted in 2011 stated that LGBT communities of color are one of the demographic groups experiencing high incidence of domestic violence. However, to obtain accurate statistics of how high this is, we have to really then remove the stigma and stain that comes with it. But what also complicates the accuracy of statistics about this, and particularly communities of color, is that same-gender interpersonal violence is clouded with myth, and I'll share some with you. For example, there is the myth that because the victim and the abuser are of the same gender and are also in a consensual sexual relationship, the battering that occurs starts out as a mutual act of S&M that somewhere during the course of the couple's sexual encounter, the violence just merely got out of hand. Another myth is confusing same-gender sexual violence as homosexuality. Sadly, because these myths still abound among many healthcare workers and law enforcers about what same-gender interpersonal violence is, LGBT communities, particularly those of color, are least likely to seek out domestic resources and services. Domestic violence is not only an act of physical violence, it can also be an act of sexual violence as well as mental violence such as threatening and stalking. Because Alex wasn't out to his team, his partner, a flamboyant, effeminate male, who couldn't simply be introduced as just a buddy without suspicion, could only watch him play from a distance. Alex's partner's eyes turned into suspicion as he watched friendly, innocent pats on the butt during games. And he began stalking Alex. On the morning we were to meet, his partner accused him of an affair and a fight ensued. There are at least several factors contributing to the ongoing uninterrupted incidents of domestic violence in communities of color. One is the dominant view that combines the social ills of race and violence to be the face of black males. Alex was seen several times for his scrapes and cuts and bruises in the same emergency room at the same hospital. However, with violence associated with young black males, the protocol and treatment for domestic violence and related injuries in inner city hospitals for these patients are really introduced or follow up. Another issue is the lack of police intervention. The police were called to the house several times by both Alex and his partner. If they came at all, they were coming to a call of an interracial couple in distress. However, when the cops looked at Alex, African American, 6'2" and 200 pounds, and then his partner, white, 5'9" and 160 pounds, judgment was rendered as to whom was the abuser and who was the victim. Another is the belief that a history of racism that we experience as people of color trumps deserving a safe, healthy, and violent-free relationship. In non-interracial relationships, many victims oftentimes will not prosecute their partners for fear of community abandonment, isolation, and scorn. Some rather rationalize the violence as the root cause of persistent micro and macro levels of racism their partners encounter than making them accountable for their uncontrolled actions. Well, I could go on and on about what happened here. At the time, though, this was a column that I wrote actually last year in October for Domestic Violence Month. That was 2013. Here we are, Pride Month, 2014, and Alex is not with us. So yes, I too want a world, and I want it for him and each of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want a world. So many things that can mean for all of us individually, collectively, in our communities, in our families. I think our speakers tonight have done a phenomenal job, and I want to thank you very much, all of you. I want to give a special thank you to everyone from the Network La Red who have worked with us so we admire, respect, and are happy to connect with you on this and look forward to more. I think that this campaign has the opportunity to talk about what are very serious issues that we want to address, but it also has the opportunity to talk about a vision that we want to promote. And that is a good balance that we always need to hold. It doesn't always stay balanced, but it's really an important memory piece of that. So we hope that you will continue to stay here. Really hope you will go across to the video room, be creative. We hope you are inspired. I know I feel very inspired. To think about what your vision is, to do a recording, do a poster, socialize, talk with folks. I've also been reminded that if you parked here and you go to the front desk, I always feel weird saying this, and you want to get validated or affirmed, you can do so at the front desk. But they don't really have the power to validate you. They just have a stamp. We can all do that for ourselves. Thank you so much for coming.